At Your End Step is brought to you by Comic Town and BCW Supplies. Hello, and welcome to At Your End Step. My name is Morgan. I'm here with Dave.
Hello.
And Mike.
Hello.
And we have another fun-filled episode for you folks this week, of course. It is the Rivals of Ixalan-PALOOZA. There you go.
I'm sorry.
You missed the cue.
I was trying to find the article for real quick, and I'm sorry, everybody.
You're good. It's all right. But first, we, of course, we're actually recording this on the 15th, so the day of the bannings, and we wanted to discuss those and some other community topics before we jump into the Palooza. So let's just get started. First and foremost, bannings. So today, at around like 10:45 Eastern time in the morning, there was some standard bannings that actually happened, and we actually got 4 cards banned. Some of them were pretty expected, and a couple of them maybe not so much. So we had Attune with Aether getting banned in standard. We had Rogue Refiner being banned in standard. We had Ramanop Ruins being banned in standard, and a Rampaging Ferocidon.
Too good.
Banned in standard. So obviously the Attune with Aether and the Rogue Refiner, everyone could have predicted from like a mile away. That obviously makes sense. I think people were a little bit more shaky on like Aether Hub, and it didn't get banned. And their stance on it was that we still think that Aether Hub has is important in the format, and like other energy decks like Grixis or something like that can still exist and use it and be okay. But the Attune with Aether and Rogue Refiner were just just too good. And
they used a term to identify them. I don't know if I've heard that term before. I want to quote a generous rate card.
Yeah,
and they call it Attune that as well, which is it's a card that simply provides a lot of value for little investment, meaning that like it's a card that would be like close to playable without the bump rider on it, right? So like Rogue Refiner would already be playable if it was a 3/2 that drew a card. We've seen it be playable, like Selkie from a long time ago.
Yeah.
And like Attune with Aether was playable once before. It was called Lay of the Land or Lay of the Land.
Playable.
Playable.
I wouldn't say it was playable, but sure.
Okay, I mean, it wasn't banned or anything, so it was playable.
Yeah, by nature, yes.
But the idea is that you take a card that was a middling to a below average effect, and then make it an all-star in a format by just adding that little bit to it. So that was an interesting way to define it. And I don't know if they just made up that term on the spot, or if that's something they've actually been using behind closed doors. Like, how many generous rate cards do we have in this?
Well, I mean, every card has like a rate to it, I would imagine.
I'm assuming, yeah.
Yeah, and then that one just has, gives a little more.
I think they used to call that pushed, right?
Yeah. Well, there you go. Now we have a new term for it.
It's a pushed rate.
Yeah. Now the other 2 cards were for red, obviously, and this makes sense. With Teamer getting a hit, it only makes sense that Ramen-Up Red. Mono red would get better.
Yeah. Take out the Ramen-Up.
Yeah. Everyone was very happy about that on Twitter, by the way. Like, everyone was like, I'm so glad that I don't have to call this deck Ramen-Up Red anymore, and it's just mono red.
Why? I thought it was cool. It identified itself from other past mono red decks.
No, people
I guess that would imply, though, that there were other mono red decks in Standard, which there really weren't.
I don't know. We call... Like, we don't call things Sly anymore, but that was mono red. Like, I think that like having a way to differentiate it is fine. People are haters.
I guess like historically, like we could look back in a couple of years and be like, oh yeah, I remember Ramen-Up Red, and then you can be like, oh yeah, that was the mono red deck with Ramen-Up.
I played mono red and Onslaught. I didn't play mono red. I played Goblins. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it was mono red, but it was identified differently.
Sure.
People are monsters.
But
complain about everything.
I think in the article they said that deck on Magic Online had like the best win rate
against every other deck that wasn't energy.
Yeah,
it has a very sometimes crazy plus against any deck that wasn't.
Energy, so obviously, if energy takes a hit, that is the new de facto best deck, and we saw this happen with Reflector Mage when we saw what was that Smuggler's Copter.
Yeah, this
and
is
Emrakul get banned.
They banned Reflector Mage
because blue-white like mid-range to aggressive deck would have been really, really, really good if that hadn't seen the
flash deck, right?
Yeah,
playing the Avacens.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I was saying last week. I was like, "Do you think they're going to ban anything out of the red deck?"
Yeah, well,
and right. I was surprised with the cards that did get banned. I thought like Hazoret was probably the biggest offender, but like that's a mythic, and
So
that's probably
like I think that they did everything they could to not ban that card.
Yeah.
Because I like Ramana Ruins makes sense. It obviously it puts on like a huge amount of pressure for things like control decks and stuff like that, which I think it is a good thing, but also is probably lessens the impact that new like blue-white approach decks or blue-black control decks could potentially have on the format, even with you damaging energy. And Ferocidon was sort of the other piece of the puzzle against things like Godfarer's Gift and stuff like that, or tokens, where if you still let that card exist, then those decks still can't break into the format because you still have a card that says you can't gain life and take damage when you make tokens or any creature. So I think they're smart. I think they're smart bans for that deck because I still think red exists post this. Hauser's still a very powerful card. So I think they have to reevaluate what cards they play. And I think that's fine, but
I will say I disagree about Ferocidon just because I thought I think it's such a good red card. Like it's such a good red design.
Oh,
and
for sure. I'm not saying it's like a bad design card.
I get that it punishes tokens, but like the tokens deck are already close enough to being very, very good. So I don't know. Like it kind of bans it also like, well, we don't want to be oppressive. It's like, okay, well, be careful now that you got rid of a safety valve. So I guess we'll see. But like they said they looked at Ramen Up Ruins, Ferocidon, Earthshaker Kenra, On-Crop Crasher, Bomet Courier, and Hazoret the Fervent. On-Crop Crasher is not the card I would have thought would ever get consideration.
It's like a card that like a lot of red decks aren't even playing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I think they mentioned that in the article as well. It's like, well, I don't know if this actually does anything. Those were certainly surprising to me. Like I said, I think Hazoret would have made more sense, but it's a mythic and it's kind of an iconic card in Standard. So,
and again, I think like that is a lot of the powerhouse in the red deck. In all honesty, like if the red deck had a little bit more reach other places or something like that, then maybe it'd be a little different. But like Hazoret's pretty important to that deck existing. I think.
I agree with that. I don't know. I'm sad to see Ramen Up Ruins go. I think that like it's frustrating that red cards get punished here. And I don't mean that to sound like weirdly biased or anything, but I just think that like they're interesting cards, powerful for sure, but interesting cards. Whereas the energy cards didn't like Attune and Rogue Refiner aren't interesting to me. They're good. They do what they're supposed to do. I like that this potentially opens up opportunities for other aggro decks because Mono Red was pretty much the only aggro deck worth playing. I think I still need to be convinced that there's a better aggro deck than what Red still is, but it's possible. Maybe it wasn't before.
Well, now you have potentially like Merfolk or Pirates or whatever from.
I think a lot of people said Vampires are probably a gainer from this. Just the being able to gain life clause helps in a race.
Yeah, you are a go wide strategy as well. So like Ferocidon kind of bitchy on both ends in that particular instance. So.
We'll see. I'm overall. How would you? I'm happy that these bannings happen.
Yeah, so am I. I think that Mike and I are brewing a deck that definitely benefited from the bannings. So if they didn't happen, it was like, well, that was fun for a while, wasn't it? So I'm pretty happy about it. We'll see what happens. I know, Dave, you were mentioning that you were a little bit concerned about Blue Red Approach or Esper Approach has also been popular as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mono Red was one of the things that was keeping Blue White Approach down, and also even like Teamer with like 4 negates could beat it. It was still kind of tough, but like you take out 2 of the decks that, well, obviously 2 of the most played decks in the format. I think that deck has all the tools to deal with all these tribal decks that could potentially come out.
See, that's where I hope like Merfolk helps fill that void because they can play blue
aggro.
and they can beat sweepers and stuff like that. So like hopefully like they can benefit as well and try their best to keep that deck in check. But I agree. Like obviously Torrential Gearhulk and Scarab God are pretty like scary cards. And you still have Hazoret in the format, which is like a hard to deal with creature. So like we'll see what happens. I do wish that Rivals maybe had another sort of a good like exile card for creatures to some degree, but maybe that's just like too much in the format. I don't know. Anyway, moving on from the bannings, we did want to talk about the core set a little bit. Today there was an article that got released that is announcing the release date for the core set is moving up a week. I forget. I don't have the article in front of me, actually, but...
So the July 14th and 15th is when it'll be released.
Gotcha.
We have pre-releases on July 7th and 8th.
Right. Which is kind of unfortunate because I know it overlaps with a GP. I think it's GP Singapore or something like that. But it's interesting. Now, I didn't read the article. I just saw the headlines and tweets because I'm a bad person and I just read headlines apparently. But did they give their reasoning for moving it up? No.
Say something about GP Vegas or something?
That was I know that the guy from Star City Games there, Jeremy Knoll, said something about that, but I think he had the dates wrong. So I don't think there is anything to that.
I mean, the article doesn't really say much. It says they were so excited they wanted to move it up.
Yeah,
a week. That's the things that people do.
Oh, okay, apparently. So they just okay, all right. Well then, I think it's kind of it's a weird thing. I can't recollect a time where this has like happened. So where they moved up a release date or anything like that. So that's pretty cool.
I mean, it doesn't make all that much difference. I mean, like you said, like if there's a GP that gets changed because of that, then I guess that'd be a bigger deal.
I doubt they'll change the GP. I'm sure they'll just be like, well, whatever. We just have low pre-release numbers for that area.
Yeah, for a majority of players, it's not really any difference.
Right.
So.
And the last thing that we want to talk about was we actually got an official statement in regards to some very vocal concerns regarding the judge program. And this, if you have been following the Magic community, this was sort of a thing that got spurred on due to some, I don't know, unsavory tactics from Jeremy Hambley, I would like to say. And we decided not to talk about it because we didn't want to, spread what he's trying to do, basically.
Give him a platform.
Yeah, we didn't want to give him a platform. But
WotC's made it clear that they don't want him to have a platform, and neither do we.
Right. But they have a statement, and there's some pretty significant changes coming in regards to this. And to cut a long story short, they're going to be asking and requiring people associated with tournament organizing. So that includes like store employees, includes like judges, to get background checks. And this is something that got some mixed reactions in general. I think that I can speak for us all that we of course want every Magic tournament to be safe. Like we all want that. And I think that's a pretty simple stance to have for the most part. But what else do you guys think about this? I think it's a very difficult subject, and I don't want it to be like taken like we take this seriously, as seriously as you could take the anything in this game. But it's serious, so I don't want you to think that we don't take this we're taking this lightly or anything like that.
It's very serious. I will say I wanted to talk about it a little bit before, but we sort of discussed internally whether to or not. But I do think that it's important to separate this outcome from the process to getting to that outcome. You already made mention of Hambley, and I think it should be pointed out that in addition to him leading a witch hunt against a large group of people, that he'll continue to tell you that he's on their side. You don't do that when you are, though. Doxing most L2s and L3s by accessing information that he is not supposed to be able to access. But in addition, like regardless of whether you have it or not, like you can make a personal decision if you're going to release information like that, and he did. These sort of steps are ridiculous. And if somehow, like, I want to make sure that no one here at all suggests that the ends, like, justifies the means here, right? Like, if you're happy that WotC is changing its, the way it does this, I'm a person who I have to get a background check to maintain the job that I do constantly. It is no sweat off my back. I don't think it's a big deal. And I'm going to tell you, I'm fairly certain most invested judges are going to feel the same way. The key is just going to be cost. and that's a totally separate thing. So I think you will not be surprised to hear that most people are probably not going to be upset about the necessity of this. I mean, if you are a parent in any fashion, Dave, I'm sure you can speak to this, but the concept of like knowing that the people who are in positions of power around your children is helpful. Again, this goes into the reasons why I myself have to have this sorts of thing. So I think that the net result of this is positive, but it in no way validates the horrific tactics used to push WotC on this issue. You could have very easily presented this information privately to WotC without this storm that you tried to help create, to make this weird popularity contest for yourself. And I find that to be pathetic. So I'm glad that these changes are being made. I'm glad that WotC's taking it seriously. But I am not the kind of person who thinks that WotC wasn't already taking it seriously or wouldn't take it seriously if information was brought to light to them in the appropriate manner. And I think the biggest thing that if you read the article, the Making Magic Spaces Safer, they very explicitly say, they've said this a couple times, like, hey, we can do what we can with this. This is how this organization is set up. We are not the police. And one thing I think it's important here is, like, if you have information that you like Hambly kept implying that he has all this information, if you actually know things that someone has done that are illegal or damaging other human beings, don't use it to extort corporations. You know what I mean? Like, that, what in the world are you doing? You cannot pretend you're making people safer if you're like, well, I've got this info, I'll give it to WotC. Great, give it to the cops. Like, have a, so it is. I think that WotC handled it eloquently when they had sort of like fire raised against them, and I think the change is good, but it does not change my stance on the garbage that man has brought forth and represents.
I'll go with what you said. I mean, I agree with. I'm happy that they're taking action on it, and like I said, anything that they can do to make people more comfortable or let people know that they're not going to tolerate that kind of stuff in the judge community. That's good. I am a little worried about how this is going to affect local stores. Like, are judges going to be in short supply now? Like you said, with the cost, like, are some judges that are maybe not taking it as seriously just going to say, yeah, you know what, it's not worth it for me.
That's possible, and it's an issue that they'll have to bridge. I think it affects L1s like that fairly specifically, and it affects local stores. I think there's a lot of, there have been some local judges who posted around here that they're investigating, because WotC has set this forth, but it doesn't give a lot of information.
Right.
It's going to vary state to state. It's going to vary country to country. What a background check even means, how long it lasts.
Yeah.
Is it going to be like a BCI and FBI federal background check? Is it going to be a state level background check? Like, there's a lot of things that have to be
hammered out.
And I think that's where you have to stand with it for now. So I don't know if you can answer those questions, but they're legitimate questions. So,
and I know a lot of people have concerns about handing over like their personal information to like a local store that isn't trained to handle that. And I can understand those concerns, especially for people that live out of the United States and don't have their social security information exposed by Equifax or other various like horrible means. But that would be that would be one of my concerns personally. But I think hopefully that if this is going to be the case, that maybe if you're a store owner, that maybe it's something that you just look into and try to educate your employees on. I mean, if you're going to be invested in the Magic community, then and this is a thing that comes tacit with it, so get used to it and treat people's information as you would like your own information to be treated, and keep it secure in some facet.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and especially like you have good intentions behind it. You want to maintain a safe store environment. So I don't see how you could be too upset about having to educate your employees on that sort of thing. So
I will say there is I think an issue with some of the stuff with the judge community as far as like when you talk about the issues with that and the trust and that sort of thing. I know there are a number of people who don't judge under the real name. Mm-hmm. Like for various reasons, whatever else, and these are the kinds of things that makes that tougher, depending
Yes.
on what you want to do.
For sure.
So I hope WotC does treat this with a delicate hand as they go through and do this process.
Yeah.
So
That could definitely be a concern for the judge community at large. It's a difficult spot, and it's like, when we look at it, it's an overall good thing. I think if you live in the U.S., most every job that you have, you probably get a background check to some degree, depending on where it is that you are going to work. It's not surprising to have one done on you, but cost is a factor, and information is a factor with this, but. It kind of is what it is, and we'll keep our ears to the ground. I mean, we should have reached out to JP and see if he had any opinions that he could share with us.
I think
about it, but
until we have a more
clear view of what this is,
to be, I don't know how helpful that is. So
yeah, no, I don't disagree. So before we jump into the Palooza, I do want to give a shout out to our lovely sponsor, Comic Town. You can check out all the exciting events they have coming up via their Facebook page. It's just Comic Town. Doing a quick search for Comic Town Gaming Center on Facebook. So check them out, give them a like, and stay in tune with what they're going to be showing off at their local store. All right, Palooza. So we might be a little tight on time. We're going to try to get it through hopefully everything, but there's potential that we might have to do a side A and side B of the Palooza like we did last time.
The hits and then the deep cuts.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a small set, so we don't necessarily have as much to talk about as we might for previous sets. And I think we're going to go in Wooburg order, and then have multicolored artifact lands at the end of as we do. So, who wants to kick it off?
I'll do it. We're starting with white, as we said. We'll go with Baffling End. This is a generic and a white for an enchantment. When Baffling End enters the battlefield, exile target creature an opponent controls with converted mana cost 3 or less. When Baffling End leaves the battlefield, target opponent creates a 3/3 green dinosaur creature token with trample. I want to understand that. I have no idea what in the world is going on in this art. Like, it looks like there used to be a pirate, and now there's just a smoking pile, and there's a dinosaur standing in front of it. And I assume this is actually just the scene from Jurassic Park where the brontosaurus sneezes. Oh, yeah. But when they clearly sneezed, they just incinerated a person.
Yeah, they just made incinerate the pirate.
God bless you.
I think this card is a role player. It's nice that it gets rid of, like, hopefully something better than a 3/3 dinosaur, obviously, with trample.
I think the last time this card was printed, it was already super playable, which was Silk Wrap was very similar. Silk Wrap was just like an O-ring. Now, granted, Silk Wrap was good in a format where Jace Vryn's Prodigy was also very good, so there is a balance there. But that was also a format where enchantments got broken a lot more often because you had Dramoka's Command. In this format, you don't have that incidental enchantment hate running around, so I think this is a solid removal spell.
It's definitely interesting. It's a little awkward that it doesn't hit like Hazoret or Scarab God. So obviously it's more limited on what you're going to use it for. But I mean, if there are 3 or less creatures that you absolutely must kill, then it's a nice option, I guess.
Yeah. And there are ways, like, so it's not like your Godfarer's Gift. They don't have CMC, right?
The tokens don't. No.
Okay, so there's option. I know Scarab God, they're copies, right? So
Scarab God makes a copy. You should have CMC.
Yes,
but Godfarer's Gift does not.
All right, so like that's a quarter case, but it counts.
Neither does Embalm or Eternalize.
Yeah.
So
there's things there that
sure.
could do it.
Yeah, against that deck, you could hit their Champion of Wits.
Yeah, that
before it
too.
hits the yard. Or then hit a token afterwards, which is, I mean, it's fine value. So
yeah, and I mean, there's still going to be small creature decks that are going to be around, so having these in your sideboard is, helpful.
Nice.
All right, next.
So next card we have is Bishop of Binding. So this is a rare, cost 3 generic and a white for a 1/1 Vampire Cleric. When Bishop of Binding enters the battlefield, exile target creature and opponent controls until it leaves the battlefield. And then whenever Bishop of Binding attacks, target vampire gets +X/+X until end of turn, or X is the power of the exiled card. This is an interesting take on the
Fiend
Hunter-ish card, type card.
Banisher Priest.
Yeah. So it can pump itself when it attacks, or another target vampire, which is pretty interesting, I think. I would think a lot of times it's going to be pumping itself because it's a 1/1.
Because it's a 1/1.
But yeah, I guess it could come up like you'd want to target something else that has lifelink if their opponent has like a clear board or something like that.
Or evasion for lethal.
Right,
Like,
right.
That's also like it is definitely a relevant trigger for sure.
Yeah. So constructive playability, I mean, I guess wait and see. I mean, I guess unlike Baffling End, this one can actually hit Hazoret or Scarab God, so it's pretty interesting there. I think like looking at the rate, 4 mana 1/1 isn't really telling the whole story. It's like, but
Yeah, I'm not sure. Vampires is going to be fighting at the 4 slot, I think, for a lot of different things because you have Elenda, which we'll talk about. You also have the Hellrider, whatever it is, from Sanctum Seeker. Or
Yeah, Sanctum Seeker.
From the last set. And those are both pretty powerful at 4. But, and this being fragile, there's awkwardly a lot of incidental 1 damage spells in this set.
Yeah, hilariously enough.
But I mean, it's powerful, and if you take a big enough thing, this is an impressive attacker. Whereas Banisher Priest and Fiend Hunter were never ever an impressive attacker.
No,
so
no,
it's interesting.
It is an interesting thing to like have in the format for sure. And if you can make vampires good enough, that this might warrant an include in some version of the deck. So,
all right, next up we have Paladin of Atonement. This is another vampire. It's generic and a white for a creature, vampire knight, 1/1. At the beginning of each upkeep, if you lost life last turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Paladin of Atonement. When Paladin of Atonement dies, you gain life equal to its toughness. And we were talking about this one a little bit before we started. I'm not very high on it, but Dave reminded me that we obviously, for the most part, still have Pain Deserts.
still have 4.
Which does help trigger this, because I mentioned Painlands. He's like, well, they exist. I was like, all right, they do. I think you want this in a very specific type of game, though. You want to be racing, where this card is either huge or something your opponent doesn't want to get rid of. But I think the fact that it has to die for you to gain that life is a little frustrating. So I don't know. There's a lot of stuff at the 2-drop slot that I think Vampires probably wants before it wants this. But if the deck is constructed in a specific way, or you're always racing, then I could see this being interesting.
did you guys see any of the crazy talk about this card in Modern because of like fetch lands and stuff like that? Did you see any of that on Twitter? I definitely saw this card being named, and I was like, why?
Path it. Like I don't.
Yeah, like
Yeah, the thing about like with Modern too is like we see this come up. We see a creature that might look efficient. One that comes to mind is the one that had a revolt, right, and like became like a 4/3 or something like
green
that.
Wheel something.
the one that I have like 20 copies of. Still.
Yeah, and it's just like, well, you could just play this. It's like, or you could just like play Tarmogoyf
you
like
play
at any
real
point.
threats. Yeah, Goyf isn't even good right now. So
Yeah, but pulling back to standard, I do think it's the fact that it triggers on each upkeep is interesting, because if you use a desert to cast this, then on your opponent's upkeep you get a counter, and then say if they attack you, then on your upkeep you get a counter, and then we're working with a 3/3 there. Like I said, you don't get the life until it dies, so that is a little bit awkward if you are in that racing situation. But like, there are other ways to gain life. I guess if you're playing vampires, so I think it's interesting. It is slightly an awkward top deck later on, because obviously, in order for it to get truly big, you kind of want to drop this early
you want to
and
snowball
let
it.
right. And if you draw this when you're at single digit life total, it's a little bit it's not going to do a whole lot. So. Ultimately, I don't know if this takes it, but I do think it's a very interesting card, and I think like has potential to.
Yeah, I think it's really weird that there's 2 cards in the set that track things on each upkeep, which is not something that we've seen for a little bit of time. I mean, if you play with Mistress Bauble a lot, then you're used to remembering that trigger. But standard players are going to have to get used to that if they want to play this card.
It's funny you mention that, because the Howling Mine effect, we'll get to in blue, doesn't trigger on each upkeep. It triggers only on the player who controls an upkeep, and then each player draws a card.
That's so weird.
So there's some weird design questions here.
Anyway,
So
All right, next card we have is Radiant Destiny, another vampires card, kinda. So Radiant Destiny is an enchantment that costs 2 generic and a white. It has Ascend. So this is the first Ascend card that we're talking about, and that, of course, is if you control 10 or more permanents, you get the City's Blessing for the rest of the game. As it enters the battlefield, you choose a creature type, and creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+1, and then as long as you have the City's Blessing, they also have Vigilance. So it's kind of like an always watching that you have to work for, but it also works with tokens.
yeah.
That's pretty important, I think, because this screams vampires.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're gonna play a deck, it's probably going to be vampires. I don't think there's a critical mass of like another tribe in.
Could try. I don't know what the format looks like. You could
try dinosaurs?
or soldiers because of Catcher's Monument.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know what the rest of that is. I don't know what the carryover on what vampires or soldiers and that sort of
I think it's warriors from.
Warriors.
Is it warriors?
Yeah.
Well, like Martyr of Duskier. Oh, is a warrior off of the monument? You mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that'd be more in that block. Okay, fair enough. So interesting though. We should. I think we should talk about Ascend at least for a second because I think our next card has Ascend too. It does look like in the decks that want it, just based on what and I know Morgan, you've played a little bit. What I've seen of Standard so far is, especially these token decks, these low to the ground decks. If you want it, you got it. Like you're gonna
You're gonna get there.
So the question is on cards like this, like is how much better is Vigilance in a racing situation? It's pretty big. Like if you played against, you said Always Watching, which this is technically easier to cast as well.
Yeah.
When you're probably going to be black white. But if you played against Always Watching, if they have some kind of threat that is difficult to attack into, but then they get to keep attacking with their bigger team, it's really tough to overcome that. Like you just lose.
And keep in mind, and we had this interaction come up a little bit with Always Watching, the creatures with Exert.
Right,
the 3/1 that becomes a 4/4 lifelink.
Glory-bound Initiate.
Yeah, that one's still in the format, so we don't have Always Watching anymore, but you could potentially see that interaction come up.
That's
again.
A warrior too, right? Okay, a warrior's deck is real.
We can do it.
No, but you're absolutely right. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that actually works. But yeah, again, especially in this color, like if you want it, you got it. Here it is. Come and get it. I don't know how many more lyrics that song I can throw out that quickly.
Yeah, I mean, based on what we have seen in Standard, and also what is in the set, I mean, Token's deck is definitely going to be real. There's definitely going to be a go wide.
Sure.
Something. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but
So going right along with that, let's talk about the next one, which is Sky Marcher Aspirant, which is a white for a 2/1 vampire soldier. It has Ascend, and it has Flying as long as you have the City's Blessing. So this is a card that builds right in conjunction with that, where I think if evaluating this on its own, it's a Savannah Alliance, which used to be a rare and very good, and now is sort of the going rate for white creatures. The question is, if you can consistently have Ascend by turns 4, 5, or 6, is this card good enough to play in that deck?
Probably. I mean, this is a Savannah Lion that has some value when you get to the mid game, whereas typically, it's like if you top deck a Savannah Lion-ish type card, it's one of the worst top decks in your deck. But if it has Evasion, then it's not that bad.
Yeah, I think there's only one deck that's looking for this card, but I do think it's good in that deck. I agree. Evasion is a huge deal. Again, if you are reliably getting Ascend, which we said if you want to, you can, then I'll take it. I'll take the Flying. So goes right with Radiant Destiny. I think it's important, like we said, Radiant Destiny 2, cards like this, there's a couple in the set. There's a Pride of Conquerors, a card we didn't talk about, but it's essentially an anthem, like creatures you control +1/+1. Unless you have Ascend, they get +2/+2, and it's an instant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for 2 mana.
Comparing that card to Radiant Destiny, it's important to remember that Radiant Destiny counts towards Ascend.
Yeah.
So the cards that help themselves, just like this 2/1, like all the creatures that help themselves get to Ascend, are also pretty important compared to the spells.
Right.
All right, so next card on the list is Slaughter the Strong. So it's a generic white for sorcery. Says each player chooses any number of creatures he or she controls with total power 4 or less, then sacrifices all the other creatures he or she controls. I actually misread this when I first saw this. I thought it was like a Dusk.
Gotcha.
Which we kind of already have, so I was like, it's kind of lame. But kills a Scarab God. I mean, they get it back, but deals with that. I mean, like if you are playing, a token / smaller creature deck, you can have a couple of creatures left in play while your opponent may only have one, I guess. But the fact that your opponent gets to choose which ones they keep makes this a little bit unreliable, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's always the bane of these cards. I think back to what was that? There was a Wrath in Innistrad that was like destroy all creatures except for one that each player chooses.
Yeah.
And Divine
Did that one have
Reckoning
flashback?
had flashback.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people were like, "Oh man, you could play this card with Geist of St. Traft, and you could do this," but it never really saw any real play because that whole your opponent gets to decide what creature they keep it's too much.
Yeah.
This though, it really depends on what you're doing. I still think it's probably not good enough, but the way that the text works on that, like there are some board states where if you're playing either creatureless in some fashion or only a couple like important creatures, this becomes pretty attractive, at the cost of it, because it's pretty close to a Wrath at 3 mana. So I think it's interesting.
Yeah, my only problem with it is like a Wrath, just like a straight up, a Wrath of God or Day of Judgment, whatever, is going to kill everything. And sometimes there's something that you really need to get off the board, and this is not always going to deal with what it is. So, I do think it's an interesting card.
Ringer, you're going to have a bad time.
Yeah, like the versions of this card that have been good is something like Tragic Arrogance, which you got to choose what they got to keep.
Right.
So that was a little different. So yeah, they got to keep something, but it's probably going to be irrelevant. So this one, I'm going to say probably not, but something to keep in mind, I guess.
Yeah, I just want to at least put it on there. So next up we have Temple Altasaur. This is a 4 generic and a white for a 3/4 creature dinosaur. If a source would deal damage to another dinosaur you control, prevent all but one of that damage. So this is the old Urza's Armor effect. All the dinosaurs on Ixalan got Urza's Armor. I don't know where they got access to it. Azor probably brought it with him. But,
yeah.
This is an interesting text box only because the enrage triggers that, at least in my fiddling around with it, some of the enrage triggers make dinosaurs feel a little more real in this set. And we already had some pretty good enrage triggers in the last set, with especially Ripjaw Raptor, the card that screams "play me" and no one can. Maybe now, maybe energy falls down enough. The Ripjaw Raptor's like, me, you guys, me. And this makes it so that you don't just get that one block and done. That also means that any damage you would deal to your creatures gets reduced this way too if they're dinosaurs, which lets you play things like like Sweltering Suns, which just survives, not surprisingly, and then lets you like trigger Enrage on all your guys. That's the dream scenario. But I actually think the worst thing for this card is that it's white.
I think the worst thing is the rate.
5 mana 3/4.
5 mana 3/4, and it doesn't work on itself. It's only other dinosaurs.
But if you have 2,
sure.
Then
if you have 2 5 mana 3/4s,
they twist their necks together and become one.
Yeah.
We are Temple Altasaur.
Yeah, I'm not seeing this one for constructed, but probably a sweet limited card.
That's right. I think if someone tries to make a dedicated Enrage deck, it probably has this card, but I'm not sure.
If you talk about the next card, this one I could see breaking in. It's also a white dinosaur, which is kind of awkward.
Yeah, it's fair.
Trapjaw Tyrant is the next one. It's a mythic rare. It's 3 generic white for a 5/5, so 5 mana 5/5. Doing okay. And it does have Enrage, so the Enrage trigger is whenever Trapjaw Tyrant is dealt damage, exile target creature an opponent controls until Trapjaw Tyrant leaves play, or leaves the battlefield. So this one is something that it's not really chump blockable, since it'll, kind of take 2 with it. So, yeah, I mean, the rate on this one is certainly better. 5 mana 5/5 is more, in the realm of constructed playability. I'm still not sure if white green dinosaurs is a thing, but
if you're trying to trigger Enrage on your own, probably not, and that's why this having a double white in the casting cost is tough. I also think that there's just some when you look at some of the things you could play at 5, the 5 CMC in white, you could still play the horse.
Crested Sunmare.
Yeah, and that card is also fairly good. So I think this has some work to do to prove that it's good enough. But that exile trigger is important. Now, can we talk about the flavor of this for just a second? Ostensibly, by being called a Trapjaw Tyrant, it means it's locking people in its mouth, right? And just holding them there like a chipmunk until it dies.
Just saving them for later, yeah.
Or he's actively eating all of this, and then when it does die, someone's like Han Solo style slicing open the Trapjaw stomach, and everyone is released from it. And somehow they're still alive. They're all just cool. I don't know which one is worse.
It's like in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 when Drax.
Was it Sharknado where they use a chainsaw to cut somebody out of a shark? Right, maybe that's what it is.
I don't know, but that probably happened.
I saw the first one. I think that happened to the first one. All right, one more white card. Zatalpa Primal Dawn. This is 6 generic white for a legendary creature Elder Dinosaur. It is a 4/8, and it has flying, double strike, vigilance, trample, and indestructible.
AKA the The best God Pharaoh's gift target in the set, probably.
Yeah, so I want to talk about that. So this card is not good enough at rate. 8 mana for a 4/8 with all these abilities isn't going to see play. The closest I've ever come to playing a card like this in Constructed is to play Drog Skull Reaver, and that card was sweet. It was a 7-drop 3/5, but you get to draw cards when it dealt damage. Alone, I don't think this card is good enough. It's just a kind of a splashy thing that people are like, oh, cool, big legendary dinosaur, but I do think it may have a home depending on some God Pharaoh's Gift builds. It still gets to stay at 4 power when it comes back.
Add haste.
And it's indestructible, and it just, so maybe it doesn't just because it doesn't kill that much faster like an Angel of Invention.
Yeah.
But this does not get dealt with the way that Angel of Invention gets dealt with. I think this is like that spicy one-of target that sometimes you just throw in there and your opponent goes, oh, I can't actually beat this card ever, and they just die to 3 attacks from Zatalpa.
Yeah, like you can reasonably cast Angel of Invention even if you're not, bringing it back with a God Pharaoh's Gift. This one is a little bit, 8 mana is pretty tough, but
I honestly think that's what kills it. Like, there are games in God Pharaoh's Gift where you're just like, I just cast my threats and win.
Sure.
But you're just gonna get stuck with this in your hand, and maybe that's fine.
You're
like
not gonna get stuck with this.
Well, yeah, you could discard it and stuff like that. But other times, you're gonna be like, okay, I need to draw.
Oh no,
yeah,
it's certainly bad in those situations.
And maybe as a one of that's probably a 1 or possibly a 2 of.
Right.
But that's the extent I would see it in God Pharaoh's Gift. So those lists are already very, very tight. It feels like you have this.
You can't discount Indestructible. You can't discount it. It's so good.
It is very, 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 very good.
It survives so many things. You're probably right. It probably is not that great, but I would not be surprised to see it. Like if you're watching coverage and all of a sudden oh, and here's a spicy one of, I'd be like, yeah, I get that.
Yeah,
I totally understand why you're doing that.
Definitely.
It's not like archetype defining. So that's white. Not a ton there, honestly. I think most of the stuff is we saw the vampire stuff, the Radiant Destiny, Sky Marcher, Aspirant. Those seem pretty good. Everything else seems pretty maybe. Like everything's maybe this sees a home, and that's kind of sad. If you're hoping that white dinosaurs got better, they didn't. There's some powerful ones, but there's not the cohesion that you need.
Right.
So,
and I think it's really weird with green-white dinosaurs specifically because some of them have enrage, but you have no good way of triggering
not at all.
that.
Like fighting is the only way you have to do it. It's
but we don't have
Savage Stop.
That's give us another fight card.
You have pounds. Sir Pounds.
No, they should have just been like, oh, randomly, hey, Drumuk is here, and here's their command.
Drumuk become a planeswalker.
Because Drumuk's command would have been
you're a dragon. You shut up.
It would have been
no, dinosaur.
It would have been great with all of the enraged stuff and everything. Could you imagine? So we're going to talk about. Do you have the green white 2-drop on here to talk about?
I do.
So think about that card. Only we have Drumuk's command, and that card is great.
Yep, it's just heroic. It's just a heroic deck.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, moving on. What do we? So that was last card in white.
That was last card in white. We're moving on to blue.
Okay. What do we think of white in general?
Meh.
Yeah,
don't get very much.
I don't think
vampires got better.
Yeah, vampires obviously got better.
I think it's mostly because of the Lord, not anything too crazy here.
Yeah,
so
I would agree.
Yep.
Blue, Dave.
First card.
Dabu die.
Admiral's Order. Cancel, but slightly better. One blue.
Every standard set gets one.
Yeah, 1 blue instant. Counter target spell. It has raid if you attack the creature. This turn, you may pay blue rather than pay the spell's mana cost. So, as a cancel, unless in your second main you want to resolve a threat that you need a cheaper counter spell to protect. So, yeah, that's basically it. I mean, if you would play cancel, then this is just a strict upgrade.
If you'd play cancel and you were attacking for sure, otherwise you'd probably still just play either Spell Pierce or Dispel, which you may still just play those. But I think it's worth talking about because the exact scenario you said, where if the deck desperately needs to resolve something and they can't, this is for after that. If they were looking for, they could play cancel anyways, but sometimes they want the upside, then sure. But
you might be able to randomly get people that try to cast an instant during your combat, after you attacked. You're like, oop.
Well, survive the wreckage, right? Is that the
settle the wreckage?
Yeah, so you can counter settle the wreckage for 1.
Yeah,
that's the thing, I guess.
Most of the time, Spell Pierce does that too, and Dispel definitely does.
Well, Dispel's not legal.
I thought Dispel was. Why would I think it was?
Nope, Dispel rotated out with BFZ.
Sorry, that's right. You're right.
That card would see a lot more play.
Sorry, 100%. Spell Pierce.
But yeah, Spell
Played a bunch
Pierce
of
isn't
modern
always
last week. My
Yeah.
apologies.
Spell Pierce isn't always reliable. This one is just straight up counter. So yeah, it's a fine card. I mean, I don't see it seeing like super heavy play, but there might be decks that, like I said, if you absolutely must resolve something in the second main, then yeah.
Yeah. Next up, we have Crafty Cut Purse. 3 generic and a blue for a 2/2 creature human pirate. Has flash. When Crafty Cut Purse enters the battlefield, each token that would be created under an opponent's control this turn is created under your control instead.
So this is like what's that card that's in Type 4 that's like whenever somebody would draw a card,
Oh,
you draw
the
it
3
instead?
one. It's on play in standard too, didn't it? It was Notion Thief.
Yeah.
Well, that's on the stick. I was thinking of the spell. But
Oh,
yeah.
oh,
it's,
got it.
Notion
Yeah,
Thief,
yeah.
yeah. It's similar to Notion
Plagiarize.
Thief.
Plagiarize.
Yeah, plagiarize, yeah.
Was it Torment?
I don't know.
It was Odyssey block. I don't know. Yeah, so this card is 4 mana for a 2/2 with flash is not great unless you're playing Venser.
Adventure was great.
But I do think that this is a pretty one. It's a really cool text box, but I think it's a really relevant text box when you look at the format at large. You could play this against, and again, it has to earn its own slot. But if your opponent is like trying to resolve their Godfarrow's Gift and is going to get like, okay, this Angel Invention, you're like, you know what? Actually, I want to take it. It's mine now.
Is it a May though? Godfarrow's Gift, like is that a May? So like you target something, then you may put it into play
That's a good question.
because that might not even work. Because if they target something with
During
Godfarrow's
combat your
Gift,
turn, you may exile a creature card. Gross.
so like you
bullshit.
target and then you have to choose.
Well, no,
I haven't played this on Magic Online.
It's you may
so-
exile a creature card. It doesn't even target. That's a
Oh yeah.
that doesn't
Okay.
target.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So they
Well,
can just
then-
respond by not doing it.
It does still turn it off for a turn then if even if they choose not to do it. But yeah, that's exciting. It does do it. It does steal Scarab God tokens for a turn though, which is kind of cute. But if there's an Anointed Procession deck that's going off, like you can stop a pretty big turn from it with this. I don't know if it's good enough, but I think that text box is so unique that it gets something to remember that you have access to depending on how the format shapes out.
I mean, I would think like just having negate or something would be better. You just counter
Yeah,
the
but it's
anointed
not
procession.
nearly as cool.
It's not as cool, but it's more effective.
Sometimes, okay, you know what, Dave? We can't. all
I'm
go to
not
the,
seeing it, man.
The
I'm
Tim
not seeing
Duncan
it.
school for basketball. Okay, like nothing flashy, no dunks. All right. Sometimes I just want to dunk on a fool. And Crafty Cuppers dunks on fools.
Okay.
There we go. If you take away one thing from this set review, Crafty Cuppers, Duncan on Fools. All right, what do we have?
Tim Duncan on Fools.
Tim Duncan on Fools. What do we have next?
Crashing Tide. Yeah, this card's sweet. So 2 and a blue, sorcery. Crashing Tide has flash as long as you control a merfolk. Has return target creature to its owner's hand, draw a card. So sorcery speed, repulse. Unless you have merfolk, then it's just repulse.
Then it's just Repulse.
Now we didn't talk about this card when it was Drag Under in Eldritch Moon, which was Sorcery Speed Repulse.
Yeah, but this is the same thing, but it's upside.
Yes. So when I want to ask you, Dave, as a person who I know has cast many repulses in his day, is repulse good enough? Like, if you were playing the Merfolk deck and you knew this was always repulse, is it good enough? Because I'm sure the deck that wanted repulse probably wasn't a tempo creature deck, but
I mean, bouncing a Scarab God end a turn after they cast it does sound kind of spicy.
oh, and
Draw
you
a
get to
card.
draw a
Draw a
card.
card. If you didn't draw the card, it wouldn't be good. But
No, of course not. Of
but
course not.
repulse was very good back in the day, but also like creatures weren't good.
We're
so.
all clunky. I don't know how efficient creatures are if this is good enough, but man, I want it to be. Because if you're playing Merfolk, this is really close to just repulse.
Yeah, I think this may deserve some slots in the Merfolk deck. I guess I'd have to see what a Merfolk deck looks like, but I would not be surprised to see this one. See some constructed play.
Yeah, I kind of hope so. It makes me so happy. Next up, we have Curious Obsession. This is by Calvin Klein.
Obsession.
This is a single Curious Obsession, Calvin Klein. Invisible Stalker. Did you guys smell that?
Just caught a whiff of
Because I didn't see anything.
Is that jacket and tricorner hat over there just hanging in midair? Wonder what that's all about.
It smells great.
It smells great.
It's a single blue for an enchantment aura. Enchant creature. whenever enchanted creature, I'm misreading this whole thing. I'm gonna start again. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has whatever this creature deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. At the beginning of your end step, if you didn't attack with a creature this turn, sacrifice Curious Obsession. So this is Curiosity, but you also, I guess Curiosity is any damage, whatever. +1/+1 as well, though. I think it's pretty good. The attack rider, I don't think that's really that relevant. The deck when you're putting this on a creature,
you're always attacking.
You're turning sideways. Like there's nothing else to do.
Yeah, you're always attacking, or you've already lost the game anyway. I do appreciate the flavor, though. It's like, no, actually, I'm over this. I searched and searched and couldn't find anything, so I'm done.
I went to Curiosity Rehab and they got rid of it.
They got rid of it. I got better.
I also misread this card. So I thought the creature that you enchanted had to attack and return, but it's just a creature. So the creature that has this on it doesn't even have to attack.
No, it's any other creature.
So it's like if you
so
just
if
like
it does
attack.
get bad.
Yeah. Like, well, I'm still curious, but I'm just going to hold off for a turn.
Yeah.
And then,
You go check that out for me.
Yeah, you go check that out. Come back. Let me know. Let me know what's going on.
We do have an amount of unblockable creatures that exist in this format, and really easy, like cheap Welkin turnish creatures with upside, like the Marauder.
Right.
So there are plenty of ways that you can put this on a duder and keep getting in.
And in Merfolk, I think there's like other ways just to make things. Kumena makes things unblockable. Like I think that's I think it's
just
Kumena. Okay, it's fine.
It's just
Kumena. Can be curious. That's fine.
No, of course. I mean, they got to Orozco or whatever, the Golden City. Got to be curious to find that.
So I think this card, obviously, if your opponent has a ton of removal, then you're asking to get blown out. But by being 1 mana, it could be early enough the game, and if you get the card back immediately, then
you don't even care.
You're not really down a card. It's nice. So I think this is pretty good and it's pretty playable.
I think like the investment is so low, just a single mana, and then like you said, like if you can play it on a turn where your opponent's tapped out and you just get that card back and then they kill it the next turn, that's fine because you've still drawn a card off of it.
You also force them to make that, like they have to kill that now.
Right. And it's also a card that like, if they don't deal with the creature, then you're just going to run away with the game.
Oh, absolutely.
And just for a single mana, like that's pretty good. So I do like this card a lot. Like just a single blue, like even just pumping the creature can make it, make blocking awkward for your opponent. Yeah, the sweet card. Probably cube playable in my cube too. I know Mike wants it
so much. I want it, and I want to draft it with Whirler Rogue, and I want Whirler Rogue to make things unblockable. And I just I'm
all about this. You have a pretty good blue-white flyers archetype, so kind of fits right in there.
Too. Yeah, absolutely. There's shadow creatures still in there too.
Oh god!
Put this on a Sultari champion.
Oh man. or loot a real core, then you can draw a card. You draw a card first, and then you'll loot. And just
Dave, I'm going to die from value. You got to stop.
That's too much.
I'm just so full.
All right. Next card. This isn't on the list. I'm just going to mention it real quick. Flood of Recollection. Blue sorcery. Return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Exile Flood of Recollection. Get him a vintage cube. Moving on.
And I want to give a shout out to Hornswoggle. It's a limited only card, but get Hornswoggle.
Yeah.
It's a good name.
Get Hornswoggle, son. All right. The real next card is Induced Amnesia. So it's an enchantment that costs 2 generic and a blue. When it enters the battlefield, target player exiles all cards from his or her hand face down, then draws that many cards. When Induced Amnesia is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, return the exiled cards to their owner's hand. So this is kind of a windfall on a stick with some additional applications. Like if you have ways to actually get rid of this, you could potentially like draw a bunch of cards, use them all, get this off the board, get the other cards back, I guess. I don't know if that's going to ultimately be the use for it, but...
It reads like an older card.
Yeah.
I will say that I think that the biggest downside for this is that Induced Amnesia has to be put into a graveyard for you to get your cards back, so you can't like bounce it or things like you would normally do in blue. Yeah. So yeah, I agree. I don't know what you're doing to get it, but that text reads like something that is so close to being very powerful.
It's like,
very broken.
A memory jar,
right?
It's
like I want to. This is one of those Kinder eggs, and I need to know what's inside.
I guess. You don't even have to use all the cards that you draw because you just get the cards back. You don't have to discard.
You don't have to discard
your hand. So, yeah, I mean,
It's very flavorful. You get all your memories back, but you got the new ones too. You don't lose the new ones. Keep all the memories. Okay, you know what? Just give us Shimoka's command back. That's fine. Let's play Bant Amnesia.
Give me Claws of Gix. Can we get that? No.
How about just Engineering Explosive?
Yeah, you definitely, this is a try hard card to try to make work, but it's an interesting effect to see them get printed.
Are there any cards in Standard right now? It's like just sacrifice or permanent.
I do not know off the top of my head.
Sack an enchantment.
Probably not sacrifice an enchantment. I imagine
we had one in Shadows block. The Angelic Purge was sweet.
Yeah.
I don't know. You have to go back. There were some things they printed, I think, with Revolt in mind specifically.
Yeah, maybe.
I have to go back and really scour Kaladesh block, but it's possible.
Mm-hmm. Maybe we're missing something.
Might be working pretty hard for this, but I don't know. It's an interesting card.
Yeah.
Either way.
Next up, we have come on here, make sure I'm not crazy. Kumena's Awakening. This is 2 generic blue. This is the one I was talking about before. Enchantment. Ascend. At the beginning of your upkeep, each player draws a card. If you have the City's Blessing, instead, you only draw a card. So this is the one where most of the effects trigger on both upkeeps. Not this one.
No.
I don't know. I put this card in this list because I know some people were actively fearful of this card. If there was, I was reading some things about people worrying about if there was ever a chance at Turbo Fog coming back. This is the kind of card that's pretty terrifying for it, because one-sided was what you want for that. But I don't know. 4 mana is a lot for this, and I don't know what deck actively wants this. This Merfolk doesn't want this effect, and that deck would get to Ascend quickly. The deck that wants this but also wants to hit Ascend, I don't know if they're doing it as quickly as they could. I'm not sure. It feels powerful, but I don't know where it goes.
Yeah, it's obviously these kind of effects always find their way to people wanting to use them in some facet, but I don't know.
Yeah, I would think so.
Does taking turns want this?
No,
they don't hit the blessing, right? They don't get
sure, but taking turns they don't care about that, I guess.
Well, they don't care if your opponent's drawn cards for the most part.
Right.
Right.
But they care, when they play all the cheaper versions of this, though.
Right.
Maybe they just want more, man.
Maybe they do. I don't know.
You can play the bell, right? The Temple Bell or whatever.
You play Temple Bell. You can also play. They also have access to the one from Theros, the
flash one,
the one of Crewfix or whatever.
Yeah.
So
dictative.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not seeing.
That's the only place I would actually see it because that's the only time I see those effects in multiples.
Yeah.
So
this next card is sweet. So this is the Elder Dinosaur for blue. It's Nezahal Primal Tide. Costs 5 generic blue. Legendary creature Elder Dinosaur. It's a 7/7. Cannot be countered. You have no maximum hand size. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, you draw a card. And also has an ability of discard 3 cards to exile Nezahal and then return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So this is reminiscent of the
Pearl Lake Ancient.
Pearl Lake Ancient. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, this is obviously designed with the kind of blue control mirror.
Yeah. Are you playing a control deck and need to kill your other control opponent? Guess what? We have a card for you now.
Yeah. Obviously, pretty expensive. 7 mana, 7/7, but somewhat hard to get off the board and can really put your opponent in a bind. They're not going to want to cast spells and give you free cards. You know what I mean? You just draw the cards. You don't have to pay anything.
Yeah.
It's just, and then protects itself by being able to discard 3 cards. So
right, and this is going to live in control sideboards, and that's just what it's going to be.
This is going to be the one of and blue black
or blue white.
Yeah. I don't even know if Approach would want this.
This is a plesiosaur. It's going to lurk inside.
That's true. Yeah, just under the surface.
It's true.
Jeez.
Yeah, I like
that. Is that an iceberg? Oh wait.
No, that's just a piece of tubing on a board that you see in a lake.
Yeah, all the pirates talk about the fuzzy pictures they drew of it. No, man, I saw it. I saw it.
It's real. Oh, you can even call it Nezzy.
You can. No, that's it. This is Nezzy.
I'm glad. We're probably the first that thought about that joke. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, we're gonna call it.
We're claiming that.
It's Nezzy.
That's ours.
TM.
Yeah,
DM.
Yeah, we're planting the flag on that
I don't
one.
think we can TM anything that Magic's created, but I don't care. Nezzy.
But yeah, I like that they make cards.
Are you going to tweet this out right now? I hope that's what you were doing. Yeah, thank you very much. All right. So, no, I agree with you. And I think card, this is nice when Blue has access to this so they can finish games on time.
Yep.
All right, next one. I didn't put Riverwise Augur on there. I don't know if you wanted to talk about it at all, but I skipped it.
It's probably my favorite card in the set, but not for like constructed reasons.
Yeah.
Just for, Brainstormer on a stick. Sweet for cube.
Oh my gosh, just give me all the Evolving Wilds.
Give me all the value. So Mike's just going to be playing blue tempo for life in my cube, I think. Yeah.
I mean, you're describing what I already do.
That's true. I guess we're just solidifying that.
I did win an invitational with red-green, though. Red-green ramp. So I have some range.
Blockworm's good.
Fireball is also good. All right, you got the next one. No, I do.
Yep, you do.
Next up is...
The new old one.
The new old one, yeah. Silvergill Adept. This is a generic and a blue for a 2/1 Merfolk Wizard. As an additional cost to cast Silvergill Adept, reveal a Merfolk from your hand or pay 3. When Silvergill Adept enters the battlefield, draw a card. So, if you've played any older format where you've seen Merfolk, you've seen this card. And I'm sure it got a bunch of play when it was in Standard too, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is just the perfect card for those decks. It's a 2-drop that is a 2/1, which is effective. It's the relevant creature type. It almost always, it always cantrips, but you can cast on a tier 2 to cantrip. It does everything that Merfolk deck wants. And I'm assuming if there's a blue-green Merfolk deck, that this is a 4 of.
Absolutely. Yeah, this has been a staple in Merfolk decks and Standard, Modern, Legacy.
Right.
Yeah. It does feel bad when you have to cast it for 5, but that doesn't happen too often. This is obviously going to be like the first one that you cast out of your hand for the most part.
Yeah. When you look at Modern, they've already shown you that it's powerful enough in Modern just to play 4 Silvergill Adepts and 4 Merfolk Branchwalker.
Yeah.
And now you can do that in Standard. So there's definitely something there.
Absolutely. I like that this is the only one from that old cycle from like Lorwyn that they brought back, but they have new versions of that for the other creature types, which
it's also the best one still.
It's still the best one, yeah. Yeah, it was the best one back then. It's still the best one. It's weird you draw a card on a creature and it's bannable in Standard apparently.
Wow.
We got our eye on Silvergill.
You see people stapling a little piece of paper to it that says gain 2 energy.
It's like those cards from Unstable, right?
Yeah. All right. Next up.
Next card, and last card, I think.
In blue, yeah.
Warkite Marauder. Let me get to it real quick here. Oh, yeah. Warkite Marauder is the generic in a blue 2/1 flyer. It's a human pirate. Whenever it attacks, target creature defending player controls loses all abilities and has base power and toughness 0/1 until end of turn. So we talked about this card in the Lost episode that nobody ever got to hear. And my point that I made then was they just keep making 2-mana 2/1s better and better. So they started out with only being able to block flyers, and now not only can this one block flyers, but actually has a special ability. We had the pirate from Kaladesh, that Skyship Plunderer that lets you add counters to things when it hits your opponent. So this one definitely has a relevant text, and I like that it triggers when it attacks too, so you can even knock a flying blocker down out of the sky, before they get a chance to block. Can interact with the Scarab God in a weird way, by making it 0/1 and killable.
Killable doesn't come back.
Yeah.
So, I think just if you're going to be aggressive, this is already good. But if you're combining it with any sort of way to deal 1 damage or anything any way like that, then I think that this card has a lot of upside. So I don't know Deck's playing it yet, but
I don't know either. I already said that I'm a fan of this card. I think it's a pretty cool effect. But again, I also don't know. I do not know.
Hey, I played Tournament Pirates. Tried that before. Maybe Tournament Pirates is here.
Let's bring it back. Let's do it. I'm on board. You don't have to sell me.
Another sweet cube card if you have rares in your cube.
Oh yeah. It's just you already have cards in your rare or your not powered cube, but your modern cube or what have you.
It's like whatever Welkin-turned variant. You
already have those.
Just replace it with this one.
Yeah, exactly. So it's an easy swap out. I've seen a lot of that on the Cube Reddit and stuff like that, where people were talking about ads from this, and so cool. I think blue definitely got some interesting things for sure.
I think that I still looking at Ixalan block now. It hasn't really come to fruition in standard yet, but I really did like the direction they pushed blue, making blue, giving blue pirates and making them do things like Curious Obsession, things like these flying pirates. I think it really pushed some of the ways that blue can work as a color and how blue can be aggressive. You may see that more in a limited format than you would in constructed, but I still like it. I still like it. From
they're what, blue gets to attack this time around.
Yeah. All right, let's move to black. We're going to start here first with Champion of Dusk. This guy's got a sweet cape.
Yeah, he looks really cool. It's real cool art on this card.
3 generic black for a 4/4 creature vampire knight. When Champion of Dusk enters the battlefield, you draw X card and lose X life for X number of vampires you control. I'm always down for a skeletal scrying. So I don't know if this one's good enough, though. 5 mana for a 4/4 is an average rate. It has no evasion. It's all the power is going to be in that ability, and there's going to be some games where you can't cast it because of that ability. You might die.
I guess that's true. You're just I can't actually spare this life.
So I can't see this being a 4 of anywhere. But the effect is really powerful, and if you've got a board clog where you just need some raw card advantage to get ahead, this card can do it. So, and as I said that, based on the way this guy looks, I literally heard the raw in my head from the Last Jedi trailer. Raw, untamed pow.
This guy looks cool. Does a cool thing when he enters the battlefield. Play this with Panharmonicon if you really want.
If you want to die.
If you really want to live on the edge.
This guy is totally an edgelord. Look at this guy. Champion of Dusk is an edgelord.
Yeah, he's trying to make those bad jokes that are in poor taste on the internet, for sure. Anyway, cool vampire card.
All right, the cool pirate card.
Dead Man's Chest? Oh, no. We're not doing
No, that one's a weird pirate card. I thought they did a good job on the flavor, though, on that card.
Oh, no, I agree with that, yeah.
Just a lot of the pirate flavor I thought was sweet in the set. But Dire Fleet Poisoner seems like a pushed card. So it is a 2/2 for 2, so it's a generic and a black for pirate, has flash and death touch. When it enters the battlefield, target attacking pirate you control gets +1/+1 and gains death touch until end of turn. And she definitely has a snake.
An ambush viper on her arm.
A snake as a weapon.
She done defeated Snake Man from Mega Man. Got shooting them snakes.
What you got new power you got now? I shoot snakes. What?
I got equipped with snakes, man.
How is that even a feat? How do you create them? Where are they? A little system in my body, it makes little snakes.
Anyway, this card's cool. You're gonna flash this in, kill a lot of big things, and you're going to blow out some blocks for your opponent by flashing this in. So you get value both ways, and sometimes you might even flash it in and kill your opponent. With the +1/+1.
I think that's the key with this card is if there is we just talked about how good the 2-drops were in these pirates decks, and we just talked about Warkite Marauder. The decks they can chip in damage early, they can make combat favorable for each other, they can play tempo oriented cards, and I've played enough Snapcasters in my life to know that sometimes you also just kill your opponent by just okay, cool, I wrath the board, I'm good now. Why is there another creature?
Where did that come from?
Haha, the poison is here. So I think it's cool, and Death Touch allows something that we've already looked at with his pirates is they're very small. So if they are, if the board state gets sort of out of hand, then this allows you to okay, well, at least I can get this giant thing off the board, and that is I think really important too.
I think another thing to point out too is a lot of the pirates have menace.
Oh yeah.
So if they go to double block a pirate and you're
strike.
Yeah, and you're flash this in. All right, I'll kill 2 of your creatures. That's That's pretty nice.
Oh yeah, we're talking. I was thinking blue black with like red black. You can go like rigging runner into this, and then it's just like, oh yeah, because like your rigging runner is like a 2/2, and they need to double block it anyways to make sure it dies, and you're like, oh, that's unfortunate for you. Oh, it's so good. All right, so yeah, I like that card. It seems innocent, but I don't know. I keep saying like, oh, this looks like good design, but we're also talking about 4 standard bannings today, so I don't know what to tell everybody.
Well, to be fair, the playtest didn't have time for Ixalan, so
Sure.
So maybe we'll maybe that's all right, and hopefully we'll have better designs going forward.
All right, next up,
Elvish Visionary.
Yeah, the Dust Legion Zealot. It's a generic and a black for a 1/1 creature vampire soldier. When Dust Legion Zealot enters the battlefield, you draw a card and you lose 1 life.
Yeah, a less ragey Phyrexian Rager.
I'm going to replace Phyrexian Rager with this in the battle box.
Nice.
So, yeah, these are the kind of cards whenever anyone like they're printed. Like when Elvish Visionary is legal, it gets played. When Rogue Refiner is legal, it's played.
That's weird.
This, it being a 2-drop that is a super relevant creature type that also just we talked about Curious Obsession. Like as long as you get 1 card, you feel good.
Yeah, we were talking about that soldier stack.
Yeah, you do. Oh, that's true as well. Like
Look at
this
that.
just gets that card always, so you never feel bad about what happens afterwards. If this happens to be a 2/2 because you have a Lord 2 and it gets to do so like relevant damage or trade in combat, it's all upside. So these kind of cards I think always feel pretty good when you're looking for them.
I think like this type of card too is easy to overlook. Like I think a lot of people might just be like, "Oh, okay, whatever." But yeah,
Yeah, no,
like
I
Elvish
agree.
Visionary has been a
Yeah.
staple in like Legacy Elf. You know what
No,
I
it's
mean?
like I've seen Elvish Visionary too many times to be like, oh, this isn't anything.
Yeah,
No, and pretty much every time I've seen Elvish Visionary, it's been helping do some of the most disgusting things you'll
yeah,
ever
for
see.
sure.
And that includes standard too. I still remember Elf Ball. That was
yeah. All right, Golden Demise is the next one.
this is Vraska going Super Saiyan.
Yeah.
She ascends.
Golden Demise is a generic black for sorcery. Has Ascend. Has all creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn. If you have the City's Blessing, instead only creatures your opponents control get -2/-2 until end of turn. So it's an interesting infest variant. I don't think we have one of these in standard, do we?
No,
No.
not a group -2/-2.
No, we had a
have
bunch of them, and then they all rotated.
Yeah, we had the one that exiled, right? Flaying Tendrils.
You
Yeah.
had one in you had one in Shadows Block too, I think, because I know we had more than one.
You had Biting Rain,
Oh, okay, yeah.
and that was Madness. So it was 4 mana, but if
Right.
you Madnessed it, it was less.
But this is the first one that they've printed that really has a clause where it doesn't affect your creatures, which is relevant if you're playing something like, a vampires deck or something with smaller creatures that you don't necessarily want to kill your own. You can still play it in that and then possibly wipe your opponent's board, not yours. So, but also like if you're playing like a blue-black control deck and you just want this effect as well, it's still fine.
Right.
Still an infest. So
Yeah.
I like this card a lot.
Because that you can't always play Bontu's Reckoning. Like that downside is definitely a downside to certain decks. So having this option be viable for both control and like even like tokens mirror matches. This will be fairly annoying, or like something like vampires or stuff like that. So yeah, I think this card is certainly standard playable.
Yeah.
It usually is when it comes around. So
When
not
it
surprising.
comes around. No. Next up is Mastermind's Acquisition.
Before we get to that, I do want to give a shout out to Grasping Scoundrel. It's another black 1-drop that attacks for 2. They're like an obscene.
million of
There's like
them now.
16 of these in the format currently, so I doubt you needed one more, but it's there.
And this is the worst one. I have to assume like the actual worst one.
Yes,
Right.
Because it doesn't immediately get the damage in.
Well,
Night Market, Lookout, and Conquistador both get the damage in
Yeah,
immediately.
yeah.
And then the other one is just a 2/1 already.
Right.
So
Yeah, like he sort of at least can block it one toughness creature.
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, that's true. That mono black deck that was sort of hovering around last format might want another one. Mastermind's Acquisition is 2 generic black for a sorcery. Choose one. Search your library for a card, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Choose a card you own from outside the game and put it into your hand. That's a line of text. I've not. That's a line of text I've not heard since before you were born. But since what? Glittering Wish?
Yeah. That'd probably be the last time I think that you would see that.
That is the common language on the wishes, and I should say for constructive playable, and they had to mention this in the pre-releases.
There was a Eldrazi card in
you can
Shadows.
search for the Eldrazi card outside the game. That's right. Garrick, there you go. But yeah, so just remember that you can only search your sideboard for this. This card's probably not good enough. Diabolic Tutor hasn't seen play since Mono Black Control, but I want to mention only because, one, that's an interesting line of text, but two, we do still have a bunch of combo potentials with some cards that are still in Kaladesh. And the way that I remember Wishes getting played was for a little bit of redundancy and a little bit of help with that, just like it is when you see like the Jeskai Ascendancy deck in Modern, for example.
Yeah,
so,
it allows you to cheat like main deck slots for sideboard slots.
Yeah, and because you can choose any card, this is black. So like thinking of a deck like Aetherflux Reservoir, which hasn't seen play in a little while. But you can put a Reservoir in your sideboard, but you can also put like Wrath effects and other things in your sideboard, and you could play a deck that way. It's a little slower and more controlling, but you could do it. The rate's probably not good enough to let that happen, realistically, but I think it's an interesting card.
I feel like you'd have to be playing a combo deck that can generate a lot of mana, which is not impossible, but yeah.
Yeah.
This is also a story card.
This is true. The mastermind here is Nicol Bolas still.
He done master in all your minds, and he's definitely acquiring the Immortal Sun.
Yeah, he's just taking it.
This is mine now. Yeah,
Azor's like, but I need that to leave, guys.
That's my sparks in there. It's like when you trash your car, you total your car, and you still have all your things in it because you forgot to grab them. Like, oh no, my mix CD.
I know I liked it here, but I liked it because I could still choose to leave. I can't talk to these dinosaurs.
But I had all these books.
There was so much time now.
Oh man. Anyway.
Oh, okay. Next up, Patrick Sullivan's favorite card.
Oh, the favorite of P. Sully. Yep.
Ravenous Chupacabra. It's a 2 generic black for a Beast Horror, 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, destroy target creature and opponent controls.
Simple.
Looking here for extra text.
None.
Just
There's some flavor text.
Just flavor text.
This card is. I mean, we've all heard the rant. This card is just like very powerful.
Yeah.
It is like the uncommon in the set. Then you're drafting that you're just going to take over like a lot of rares and mythic rares. to be perfectly honest. And there's not a doubt in my mind that it does show up in somewhere in standard constructed play. And in a lot of cubes as well, but
every cube.
Yeah, probably every cube. But yeah, I mean, like this is just from the top to the bottom, like a very clean, good magical card. To be perfectly honest, so yeah, I don't know where to go from there. Basically, it's pretty weird as far as that goes. So we'll see.
Yeah, if you haven't seen Patrick Sullivan's rant,
it's worth watching
at this point. Then so go back and watch it. It's on the coverage page of Star City Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah,
it's a good one.
This one's a head scratcher for sure.
Yeah,
I had to do a double take when I first saw this card. I was like, oh, okay.
I mean, it feels like in this format, in the standard, there are definitely like a lot of just like powerful cards that cost like 4 mana. It feels like so maybe like that's where you come to find your issue. But I mean, this one is just like pretty absurd to be honest.
Yeah, I had a cast against me at the pre-release, and it was like, oh, cool, like. Thanks for your better than a regular removal spell. I don't know.
Yeah.
It'll see play, but it seems, I don't know. A card that, again, like Sullivan said, doesn't fit with the rest of the format, so whatever.
Yeah. It makes you question, like, it's not, it's not like in a tribe. It's just like a random, like, just absurdly powerful card for no like benefit to the set. It feels like so. Who knows? Maybe this was needed for balancing limited. I don't know. was pretty good.
Yeah, real balanced.
Pretty good magic card.
Next up is Tetsumak, Primal Death. I feel like I'd say that even Tetsumak, Primal Death. 4 generic black for a 6/6 legendary creature Elder Dinosaur. This Death Touch has an activated ability of black, reveal Tetzimoc, Primal Death from your hand. Put a prey counter on target creature, activate this ability only during your turn. When Tetzimoc enters the battlefield, destroy each creature your opponent controls with a prey counter on it. We talked about this one a little before because one of our first ones we saw, I think. I still think the card is objectively powerful. The fact that it can be a Plague Wind on a stick is pretty important, but man, you have to have a lot of extra mana. Like if you draw this on turn 6, it doesn't feel that good, and if you didn't have extra mana curving up, it's not going to feel as good either. But I'm sure there are situations where this card is going to be unbelievably brutal because it's already a 6/6 Death Touch for 6 as it is. So if it gets to kill, you get to kill one creature, you're fine. Like you're already at like Noxious Gearhulk levels. If you get to kill 2 or 3, you're way ahead.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like your opponent will know that you have it.
This is true.
So they can definitely do their best to play around it. But that's kind of what you want, right? As a deck that maybe is a little bit slower, like more of a mid-range deck, you don't want to be overwhelmed, in a mirror match situation or a deck that's slightly more aggressive. So it's like they have to make the decision to play into it and try to like hopefully outrace it, or not, and then buy you a bunch of time.
Right.
So. I do really like this card. I don't know if it has a home, but I think it's powerful enough to get there.
Yeah, I agree. All right, next up.
All right, next card. Tomb Raider.
Robber.
I mean Tomb Robber.
Yeah. So we have Ruin Raider and Tomb Robber, and when they are together, then you can have a Tomb Raider sort of situation.
All right, so 2 generic and a black for a 1/1 human pirate. Has Menace. It also has an activated ability of pay 1, discard a card, Tomb Robber Explorers. That's it. I don't know about this one. We have seen that Explore is pretty powerful.
Man, it's really great that we have all these Oh, no.
Yeah, no, shut up. I know, I get it.
Weird.
I think this card is deceptively powerful. You have the ability, especially in a creature type that has Menace, in a color that probably wants to be aggressive when you're like with this creature type, a card that lets you filter your okay, well I don't want to get past land drop 4 or 5. And when you activate this, if you explore and you hit a relevant thing, you put a counter on it and it gets bigger and has Menace, so it's hard to block. Or if you hit a land, you get to do it again. And again. And again. And this card can easily become very big, and also make it so that you don't you're just moving through your deck very quickly. And I think it's deceptive. I think it's very powerful. I also, and this is me going real crazy in Standard, but there's a couple of cards in Standard that work really well with this card. One of them is Ramanub Excavator, where you play lands from your graveyard. The other one is the Dinosaur that we'll talk about, I think, a little bit later, but it lets you play additional lands each turn. Mm-hmm. And in my mind, you just jam them all together, and then you can go through this. But
like, I'm a pirate, you're a dinosaur, you're a snake. Let's do this.
Yeah, let's do whatever. Like they said it couldn't be, but we're gonna make it be.
we're gonna make this 3 companies reboot work.
Oh my gosh! But I really think that it's deceptively powerful. 3 mana 1/1s are not exactly where you want to be. I get that, but this has Menace, I think, for a reason. Like it's telling you that. It's kind of party time. You just get to do this excess land. And there's no, when I see this card, this is the kind of thing I would normally assume that you'd have the Sorcery Rider on. It doesn't have that. You can kind of go crazy with this. So I think it's better than it looks.
I don't know. I think it's mana intensive. I know it's only a single mana to activate, but the body on its own is not good. You know what I mean?
No, I get that.
3 mana 1/1 not good. If it's 3 mana 3/3 is kind of, I think, the baseline for constructed playability. So you're going to have to activate this twice and hit 2 non-lands to get it to be a respectable body, and then go from there. And I think if you have more than one of these in play, then that's also kind of awkward because you can only do one at a time. So I'm not really seeing it, but I think it's a cool card.
I mean, realistically, if you have a bunch of mana, you just get to make hitting something non-land off your Explorer. This guy just gets as big as much mana, and how many cards you have in your hand, I guess. But I mean, that could not be relevant to where you are in the game.
It only gets the counters though if you don't hit the land.
Yeah,
so you're just discarding cards.
If you have a spell on top and you just want to pump it, you
Sure,
can.
sure.
Yeah.
It also works well with Godfarrow's Gift.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Again, maybe it's not good enough, but I think it has enough interesting things in a format where it could be playable that I want to mention the card. I think it's good. I think it's close to very good, and it may also never see play. So that's sad. But,
Well, whatever.
I don't know. After seeing also like Deadeye Tracker just do a lot of work at in a specific format, but really do a lot of work. I think I want to reevaluate some of these cards like this that have Explorer and just recognize that maybe they're not seeing there's not room for them in the format yet, but I think it's good. All right, next up we have Twilight Prophet, not to be confused with the Twilight Princess.
Or the Twilight movies that also have vampires in them.
This is two generic black for a creature vampire cleric. This is a mythic. It's a 2/4 with flying. It has Ascend. It says at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have the city's blessing, reveal the top card of your library and put it into your hand. Each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is that card's converted mana cost. So this has the old Sorin Grim Nemesis tick up. This is the kind of card where before, when it was 4 mana and both players got to Dark Confidant, it wasn't good enough. Is it better when it's like super Dark Confidant only for you? Like it's really good.
It's certainly better.
But, it's all upside, because the last one it felt like it was good and it didn't see any play. It was a mythic that was expensive for a day and then didn't see any play.
I guess the thing is, like, if it depends on the rest of your deck. Like if it's easy to hit Ascend, then yeah, it's pretty powerful. If not, then 2/4 flyer.
Yeah, no, that's bad. I think I didn't even mention this 4-drop when we talked about the 4-drops that are fighting for vampire slots.
Yeah.
We mentioned Bishop of Binding already, and we have Alenda and the Sanctum Seeker and on Twilight Prophet. It really depends on what your deck wants to do. I do feel like Twilight Prophet feels like a slower card, and those are the decks that will hit Ascend, but not when you cast it on 4. Which makes it, I think, a little awkward. Like everything about this feels powerful, but I think once you put it in context of a deck, it gets trickier. So I'm not sure where it will land, but it's got the right kind of text box. But you're right, 4 mana 2/4 is not great. Evasion helps though.
Now, does the fact that this is a mythic make you think that? I guess, like, does it change your mind at all about its like playability? Like, oh, they made this mythic for a reason, or is it just like it doesn't feel like a mythic to me?
It is mythic because it says each opponent, I feel like, and that screams like multiplayer games, so like Commander and stuff like that. So like that itself is powerful, and to me that kind of may be where it lies, like that mythic clause.
I think it's mythic just because it does all of the things. You draw an extra card, it damages your opponent, and you gain life.
Yeah,
it does all those things on one trigger.
It's an absurd,
that feels mythic.
It is an absurd thing to have unlimited. Like you don't want this effect at rare, to be perfectly honest, because like it's just all value.
It's all value and makes your opponent feel really bad.
Yeah.
Okay, I suppose that's fair.
Last card for black.
Last card for black.
Shout out to Vampire Remnant, just ripping off Harry Potter style. I see you. I see you, Dementor. That's just what you are.
Nice. All right, so this is a kind of a card that we've already seen. Vonus Hunger. This is one of the first.
Yeah, this is the first thing we saw with Ascend.
Yeah. So 2 generic and a black instant has Ascend. Each opponent sacrifices a creature. If you have the city's blessing, instead, each opponent sacrifices half the creatures he or she controls, rounded up. So now, I guess, seeing the rest of the set, I know, like, when we first saw this card, we were kind of like, it's all right. Sac effects aren't really that great, or they haven't been great in the current format. After seeing the rest of this set, like, has your mind changed at all?
I still don't want a 3 mana sacrifice. I don't want a 3 mana Diabolic Edict. I will say I got to see this cast at the pre-release where they had the City's Blessing and their opponent had 3 creatures, and the rounded up was relevant. Like,
pretty good.
And sacrifice 2 creatures.
But I don't know. I still don't want 3 mana Edict ever, and I just don't care. I just don't think I care. Like, if you are playing for that second half to be super good, like you either have to have exactly 3 creatures or 5 creatures, like an odd number to make it feel good, or like their board it has to be in such a way that them sacrificing either, like if my board state is a couple of blockers and I've been attacking with like Glory Bringers and I have to sack half my team, then you better have lethal on when I have to sack my blockers, because otherwise it's not going to do enough. I don't know. I'm sure this card will get me at some point, and that person will be like, "You said it wasn't good enough," and I'll cry. But I don't see it. I don't want to. I don't want to pay 3 mana for this ever. And when it's ascended, great, but any time before that, it's so bad.
Yeah. And that's black.
I want to talk about Voracious Vampire for 1 second. That guy's eating a raptor in the art. Like there's just a raptor on the ground.
Not so clever now,
he's
huh?
Just like he's just full on, just like eating from its neck. Just like, oh man, you guys had this raptor meat. Like, why haven't we been eating dinosaur this whole time?
Well, to be fair, it's just drinking the raptor's blood.
Yeah, I know, but
It's not really eating the meat.
It's fair. What do you think of black?
I don't like. There is some like. I don't feel like there's anything that like immediately like grabs me as like, man, that like I just want to do that. You know what I mean? Like all the cards that are here are like gold demand. Like there a lot of removal. Like obviously is very exciting, and you know that is something that black definitely has an advantage of over other colors. But like obviously the Chupacabra, the Elder Dino, Golden Demise, stuff like that. Like those are the cards that like kind of attract me to that color. But I think a lot of the vampires that are good are ones we're probably not like talking about. Maybe I don't know. I feel like black white vampires is a thing and can be a thing now. But I think the best one is going to be in the multicolor that we talk about and kind of makes everything else viable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think black got a lot of good role players. Like even like the Poisoner. If there's a pirate deck.
Yeah.
There's nothing that's like, oh man, this is just gonna turn standard on its ear. It's possible that the Chupacabra could end up being that card.
That's true. That's true.
We shall see.
Moving into red.
To red.
All right. Next up, we have Blood Sun. This is
It's the weirdest name.
2 generic and a red for an enchantment. When Blood Sun enters the battlefield, draw a card. All lands lose all abilities except mana abilities. And we talked about this a little bit before when we saw it. Obviously, this is a counterpart to Blood Moon. So, you know. I will say the art on this card looks sweet. Like, this is a gorgeous looking card. I don't know. Like, in Standard, I think it definitely is relevant. We have a lot of very powerful lands now. All the flip enchantments making lands. And this being a cantrip means that as a hate card, like as a sideboard card, like Morgan and I have been looking at this red-black deck. Things like... what did I just have an issue with? The red-white land I played against today?
Yes.
Or even Searcher's Canto, which is tough. This is the kind of sideboard slot that's interesting because it doesn't cost much other than the turn you cast it. In older formats, it gets more relevant because it shuts off everything from, Inkmoth Nexuses to fetch lands. So you could certainly build your deck in a way that makes this good. It also is very good with City of Traders. I know we don't talk Legacy too very often or like Vintage or anything like that, but it makes the Ancient Tomb City of Traders deck real good if they want it to be. So
it's also like to be like specific in a modern deck. Like it's pretty good in like a red green Tron deck because
awkward.
It doesn't break Tron. You still get to make mana, but they don't get to Ghost Quarter you.
Yeah, Ghost Quarter you or anything. You can't use Sanctum anymore. Like Ugin doesn't work.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, so I think this card has a lot of applications. I don't know where it will be good though. Like, it has applications. Are they? It certainly doesn't scream as good to Blood Moon to me as where Blood Moon just like stops players from playing the game. I don't know that this does that.
No,
but,
and I'm glad that they didn't print a card that did that.
Right.
This is the card that I think is going to have more applications in older formats, which we haven't really said for I don't think any card at this point.
True.
In the Palooza. So this is the first card that kind of makes you think about like, okay, well, what can we do with this in modern? So
Or Legacy or something like that. But
yeah.
I agree.
All right. Daring Buccaneer. It's the next card as soon as I get to it. So this is the Pirate Silver Gill Adept card. Or I guess it's more like the... what was the Kithkin one? Whatever. Daring Buccaneers, it costs a red for a 2/2. Man, that's pretty good. As an additional cost to cast, reveal a pirate card from your hand or pay 2. So it's either 1 mana 2/2 if you have another pirate, or it's Grey Ogre, which one of these is better than the other. But yeah, red's kind of. I guess it's not like at the worst it's ever been for 1-drops, but it's not as good as it was prior to rotation.
That's true.
You know.
This isn't even that good of a one drop for red though. It's a good red.
No,
one drop
in a
for
pirate,
one
yeah.
red deck.
Red X pirate
Yeah.
deck. Yeah, it's very specific. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. If there's a red X pirate deck, it's probably and it's aggressive. It's probably going to have four of these.
Yeah. Otherwise, that's it. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yep.
Next up is Dire Fleet Daredevil. This is generic kind of red for a 2/1 first strike human pirate. I don't know why they read it in that order, but I did. When Dire Fleet Daredevil enters the battlefield, exile target instant or sorcery card from an opponent's graveyard. You may cast this card this turn. You may spend mana as though or mana of any type to cast this spell. If that card will be put into a graveyard this turn, exile it instead. So I think we've already called this the red Snapcaster Mage, which it's not.
Not as good, but pretty cool.
It is definitely pretty cool and powerful when you look at a format that has things like Fatal Push in it. This is certainly worth a consideration. I don't know where it goes. Again, if there's that aggressive Pirates deck, maybe that's where it goes. What kind of spells you can really make use of in that format. Because, you can cast this card this turn, so it has to be done the turn you do it. So you have to have extra mana for this to be good. So, I don't know. We talked before, though. We want it in Vintage Cube. It better be in Vintage Cube.
Vintage Cube, yeah, obviously. I think it's the modern play. In honesty, that's a format where you're going to have cheap spells that you're going to be able to cast this and cast the spell that you target.
It could be. I think for a format like modern, it's kind of taking up that same space as like something like Abbot of Carol Keep would, where it's like a 2-drop that's not really you're not going to play it on turn 2 most of the time. But this one you could. I mean, 2 and first strike isn't the worst, but in order to get full value, you don't want to play it on turn 3.
So I will say this: it is important that it directly exiles the spell. So it can be the kind of thing you might play early if you also get to just exile something important. I don't know what you're doing on exiling something important on turn 2, but it could be like your dredge opponent played a Faithless Looting, and you're like, all right, well, I'm just going to exile the Faithless Looting. That feels fine because it does exile it.
Sure, or like hitting a Lingering Souls or something like that.
Sure,
might be decent. Yeah, I love the card. I love the design of it. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But I get if it's gonna be good, it's gonna be pretty good.
Sure,
but might be tough to break in. All right, next one is Italy Primal Storm. This was the red Elder Dinosaur. Cost 4 generic red for a 6/6 legendary creature Elder Dinosaur. Whenever it attacks, exile the top card of each player's library, and then you may cast any number of non-land cards exiled this way without paying their mana costs. Don't think this card is playable, but pretty good in Type 4.
Yeah, probably not. It does cool things, and it doesn't feel particularly red to me that it can just cast the cards. But yeah, I think you're right. Probably
it feels like it should have haste. It would be awesome,
strike or something.
It would be awesome if it had haste.
Oh man!
But as it is, especially with things like. I guess this was part of Patrick Sullivan's argument against something like Chupacabra is a card like this. It's just no chance, right? You're just gonna get eaten by a Chupacabra,
and it shouldn't because it's supposed to be so iconic and cool,
right?
So,
but yeah, I don't see this card seeing play.
Fair enough. Next up is Forerunner of the Empire.
I do want to give a shout out to Fanatical Firebrand.
Oh, fair enough.
Mog Fanatic being somewhat back in the format is important. It's kind of Mog Fanatic, I understand, but with things that have happened with Red today with bans, that deck is going to be shifting, so it could be something that you look at putting in there. Who knows?
Yeah.
Do you want to say what the card does?
Sure. It is a 1-mana 1/1 it's a red for a 1/1 creature, Goblin Pirate, and it has haste. You can tap it and sacrifice it, and it deals 1 damage to target creature player.
I think it being a pirate is also pretty important too. For things like the 2/2. For one, like we talked about, you're gonna obviously want a critical mass with pirates. So
Raging Goblin,
I should also point out we mentioned the 2/1 flyer that makes things 0/1s.
Yeah,
this does kill it. So if you make the Scarab God a 0/1, you kill it.
Yeah.
So that's fair. I guess it makes sense. I've already seen it today playing actual standard, not beta standard, actual standard.
Yeah.
Forerunner of the Empire is 3 generic red for a 1/3. Like all the Forerunners of its whatever type it is, they get to go search a library for a creature card of that type, and then put it on top of your library. Like, I should say just a card, a dinosaur card. So I guess there are some Merfolk cards you could also go get with the Merfolk Forerunner that aren't creatures. So it goes on top of your library. Then it says whenever a dinosaur enters the battlefield under your control, you may have Forerunner of the Empire deal 1 damage to each creature. I think out of all the Forerunners, I know some people talked about the Vampire one. We didn't mention it here. But this one feels the best for its specific tribe because that trigger is super important. Though dealing with damage to each creature allows you to obviously wipe the opposing boards depending on what they're doing, but it also triggers Enrage. So that means things like Ranging Raptors gets triggered. You get to go get lands. Ripjaw Raptor lets you draw cards. The cool thing is like even your Mana Dorks, like in that color of the
Drover the Mighty.
Yeah, it becomes a 3/3 when you have a dinosaur, so it won't die to this.
All the mana reducers are, I think, at least 0, 3, and a 1/2.
A 1/2, yeah. So I think it's kind of cool how that works. I also want to mention though in conjunction with another card. Technically, it's a green card, so I'm cheating. But that card is Polyraptor, which is the 6 generic green for a 5/5 creature dinosaur. Its enraged triggers whenever it's dealt damage. Put a copy of a creature or put a copy of Polyraptor into play, like a token copy. That card with Forerunner is pretty interesting because you can make as many copies until the Forerunner dies. If you have 2 Forerunners, I made 49 copies when I tried this because you have to kill the first few to get the last few. So that's a really spicy thing you could do. Now it's an 8-mana dinosaur, so I don't know how effective that is. But this gets to tutor, so if you're playing this just in your regular dinosaur deck, because in between all of that, like with all those triggers, again, if you have that Ranging Raptor, Ripjaw Raptor combo going on, then it's just get a land, draw a card, get a land, draw a card each time this happens. Your opponent's not going to want to kill your 1/3 when you have a Ripjaw Raptor in play, but it really gets a lot of value depending on what the board does. We also have a 2/2 creature in red I don't think we're actually talking about on this list. The Needletooth Raptor is a 2/2 for 4, but its enraged triggers. It deals 5 damage to a creature an opponent controls. So it feels like there's an enraged deck there that's close. I don't know how competitive it could be. If you make enough Polyraptors, it's competitive with anybody. But I think that out of all the triggers that all of the Forerunners get, that is the one that does so much because it affects the board. You can use a couple of, like, you can use a Regisaur Alpha with this card to deal 2 damage to every creature in play and just wipe a lot of opposing boards, and then you just have a Regisaur Alpha and its token in play. So, something worth considering at the very least.
I was going to make a joke about Toyota Forerunners, JD Power and Associate Awards, but
they definitely enrage me
yeah.
when they're on the road. Yeah. It's sad.
All right. Let's go down the list here.
Shout out to Frill Deathspitter for killing that guy in Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Yep. And shout out to Form of the Dinosaur for being garbage.
But you can be up to 4 dinosaurs. Remember that.
It's like
because it's not legendary.
It's like one of those statues that has 4 different heads. Like it's the with the cartoon mask. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Just be Form of the Dinosaur mask.
Okay. I'm not sure why this next card is here, but it's probably for the deck that Mike was just talking about, the Enrage deck.
Correct.
And I'll take this one because I know you want to talk about the next card.
Oh, I appreciate that.
So Reckless Rage, it costs a single red for an instant. Deals 4 damage to target creature you don't control. Man, that's really good. And 2 damage to target creature you control. Can be good. I think, like, obviously it's going to take a very specialized deck. It's also somewhat awkward that you can't cast this if you don't have any creatures in play.
Yeah.
So
that is the downside of it for sure.
So, like, you're going to need not only do you need a creature in play, it needs to probably not going to want it to die to this. But, like, 1 mana deal 4 at instant speed's pretty good.
Yeah, that's why I put it on here. I think, like, if you look at even, like, a red-white aggressive deck that's looking for answers that aren't, Chandra's Defeat for certain cards, this is the only thing that does it. And there's plenty of creatures in those colors. If you look at Carry Zev or the 3/3 Raptor, that's a red-white we get to in multicolored. I think those are cards that they survive this, and it lets you make a pretty tempo proactive play. In Dinosaurs, if you're playing the Enraged deck, this card is really, really good. Like, this is your other Savage Stomp, essentially. I think, if that deck exists. Like I said, like, I may be pushing it a little bit, but I agree the card can be awkward in certain places, and certainly not every deck can play it, but anything that's 1 red mana, deal 4 damage to a creature with a downside that is definitely manageable, I think is worth looking at and remembering. So,
Cool.
Dave was kind enough to let me have Rekindling Phoenix, so I appreciate that. This is Bay. 2 generic red for a 4/3 creature Phoenix. I know I said Finks.
Finks?
It's a kitchen Finks.
Yeah, clearly.
Kitchen Phoenix.
That's an oafy or an oofy or whatever that is.
An oaf?
An oaf? Is that what it is? Oaf?
I think it's just oaf, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Flying. When Rekindling Phoenix dies, create a 0/1 red elemental creature token with, at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice this creature and return target card named Rekindling Phoenix from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste until end of turn. I have cast many a Phoenix in my day. Most of them Chandra's. This card has me really excited. If it's 4 mana for a 4/3 flyer, which is already fine, especially in red. You know, you're paying an extra mana to get a Glorybringer, obviously Exert trigger, but like the power level is on par. But this is a really hard time dying. When it dies, it makes a little egg that you get to pop in your upkeep. Mm-hmm. The Phoenix gets haste when it comes back.
Yeah.
So your opponent really has to spend a lot of removal spells on this card. So I think that it's pretty powerful and certainly interesting. And this is the card that got me brewing and has Morgan and I sort of building around a little bit. It just seems way too powerful to not see play. It's obviously fighting the 4-drop slot in your red decks. Yeah, we have Chandra, Torch Defiance, we have Hazoret, but I think Phoenix goes in a couple different types of decks that like Hazoret just won't go in. So I think it's a cool card and a very playable Phoenix. And I know it's been, I think, rising in price. I think it's one of those cards that's got a little bit of like a slow burn to it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I definitely am. I saw this card and like pretty sure it was going to be pretty good. I was kind of disappointed to see it at Mythic Rare because it's one of those cards that's like, this is a big effect and it's certainly not something you want to see in limited very often. But this is also like very constructive playable. So like being the price conscious person I am, I didn't like want to be like, I got to pay $16+ for each of these. But I do like this card. I agree that it certainly can be hard to deal with. And it does some weird things, which will be probably less relevant within the format now, since because Compensation Coup was like a pretty big thing, and like if this got stolen and then you killed it, like your opponent does get the token, but they can't bring back a Phoenix.
Yeah, they can't do this. Phoenix in the graveyard,
right? So like it's pretty funny, but I definitely I'm a fan of this card, and it's been a while since we cast a good Phoenix. Like the last one was like the Morph one, the Ash Cloud Phoenix.
Yeah.
So I'm ready.
A lot of those too.
Yeah, I'm ready to get back in the saddle with Phoenix. Also, this is an Owl Phoenix, which is dope. First and foremost.
Oh yeah, like the Mesoamerican like art style for this. This card is gorgeous.
Yeah, it's very pretty.
There's whatever GP has this playmat because they were showing and I was just like,
it's not GP Phoenix.
I know, but I was just like, ooh, like that playmat is.
I might have to acquire that. So,
I just love the flavor on this card. Like it feels like it's a Phoenix. Like this is like a card that they would have designed like a long time ago.
Yeah,
you know what I mean,
no,
like what it had
a long time ago we got like Shard Phoenix.
No. I'm talking about like Alpha Beta. Like it feels like. Because it's very like top down. It feels like top down design, but like I'm sure the wording on it back then would have been just horrific. Like you would not like. You ever read Animate Dead? Like it would have been like that.
Have you ever read an old Animate Dead and understood what you were doing?
Yeah,
I think it wasn't Dance of the Dead the one that was
yes.
Even worse,
Dance of the Dead is Chains of Mephistopheles. Yeah, no.
And an alpha card would have had you actually getting a real egg and putting it on the table as a representation,
Right.
and then smashing it with a hammer to bring.
no, you'd have to like throw it up in the air, and if it was up in the air for more than 3 seconds, then it becomes a Phoenix.
But if it landed,
it's back.
But if it landed near your graveyard within you have to get a ruler out within 6 inches of your graveyard, it doesn't come back.
Yeah, would have been great.
All right, next up.
All right, next card: Shake the Foundations. 2 generic and a red for an instant. Deals 1 damage to each creature without flying, and then draw a card. And funny enough, adding draw card to this makes it playable.
Yeah, it makes it goes from like, oh, okay, cool to
Yeah.
Like instant speed, clean up all the 1/1 tokens.
That don't have flying.
I'm in for this.
You're not getting rid of Thopters with this, unfortunately.
That is true.
Yeah,
That is true.
But still,
Yeah, draw a card on this makes this card feel very powerful. And again, if there's an enraged deck, then that you can take advantage of even more triggers with this, then it feels really good. But I think like there's a control deck that is probably really fine to have this. This essentially cycles the same way that like Sweltering Sun cycles. So just instantly will deal 1 damage. So it seems like a card that's sort of powerful, hidden in that little candy shell. Shout out to Shatter.
Yeah. Shattered. Thanks for showing up finally.
Thank you.
Yeah, he finally came back. We did it.
Shout out to Stormfleet Swashbuckler because he's so fly.
Yeah, that guy is real cool.
I like how he's got a crossbow, a handheld crossbow, and a sword. So that's how he's dual wielding. That's how he gets double strike. It's great.
That is actually the Captain Hook origin story that Disney is currently developing.
You know what? It's gritty. I like it. I'm glad they're going in this direction.
And then, last but not least, for red, we have Ixalan-PALOOZA Summoner. This is a generic and a red for a 1/1 creature human shaman. It has Ascend. This is whenever Ixalan-PALOOZA Summoner attacks, you may pay X and a red. If you do, create X 1/1 red elemental creature tokens that are tapped and attacking. At the beginning of the next end step, exile those tokens unless you have the city's blessing. I think this card's pretty cool because obviously, depending on where you're at when you attack with this creature, you can make yourself hit Ascend pretty easily.
Yeah, like once you get the tokens, you get the city's blessing, and then you just have.
And they're just there. So this is the kind of card that probably doesn't get to attack more than once, just because it's a 1/1. If it does get to attack more than once, then you're doing real good. So I want to try this card out. I think it's the kind of card that can take control decks by surprise, especially if you're, somebody I think called this like a Dragon Master Outcast. It's a very similar style where you have no creatures game one, and then post board you have this, and you got one good attack in, and now you just have
an army.
3, 4, 5 1/1s hanging around, and that's pretty tough for the other deck to deal with. If they took out all the rats and that sort of thing. As far as like red aggressive decks, I don't know if this is what they want as far as a mana sink. This doesn't feel as good as what was the dash one that's in your cube?
Is it the one that
And fire breathing?
Oh, okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I can't remember. It's a 1/1 for one that has dash for red.
Yeah,
it has fire breathing. Like it doesn't quite feel like that because one just has an extra mana stable to both its cost and its activation. But it seems like there are some board states where this card one hits Ascend very very early. And like I said, if you get to leave behind a couple tokens for this, then it's well worth your mana. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really close to being quite good. And there will be scenarios where you get your opponent boarded it against you, and you just go, "Oh no,
yeah, I can't kill that.
I do nope." Or I just missed on the rule spell for the first turn. Oh, that's not good for me.
Yeah,
and you might be surprised at what it does
for sure. So that's red. I think red had some standout cards, but overall it's kind of meh.
I think red has the iconic card from this set. I think Blood Sun is the iconic card from this set.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
And that's sad. I know you probably thought I was going to say Rekindling Phoenix there, that's why you giggled. I mean, like, as far as, like, what people remember this set for, Blood Sun is probably that one that will see, Eternal play and has artwork that is very, like I said, very iconic, I think. Mm-hmm. So.
All right, before we jump in, I know, Dave, you're squeezed for time. Do you guys just want to do, like, the lands? Real quick. There's only 2 of them, so we can knock it out real quick, and then
we could do green, all the multicolor flip lands and artifacts next week.
Yeah.
So, how do you feel, Dave?
Sure.
All right,
cool.
So lands, we only have 2, like I said, and then we'll move on to the closing of the show.
6, but we have 2.
Yeah, technically. So, Dave, do you want to take the arch if you're ready for it?
Let me scroll all the way down to.
Okay, Mike's got it.
The Arch of Araska. This is a land. It has Ascend. Taps for a colorless mana. And it has an activated ability. For 5 generic, tap it, draw a card. Activate this ability only if you have the city's blessing.
It's a really garbage library.
Oh, sad. Yeah, this is not any... No Alexandria's here. But I think this card is deceptively powerful. I think it fits into a lot of decks easily. And this card just... the games it does nothing, it's innocuous. And then the games where you need to draw that card... This does it. This feels like if Seagate Wreckage was good.
I mean, Seagate Wreckage is modern.
No, it does. It does. It didn't do very much in Standard, but in Modern it certainly has shined in the Eldrazi Tron. But I think that's the card that strikes me is what it feels like, where you don't notice it most of the time, and then all of a sudden when you have no cards and your opponent has no cards, and you go, "Oh wait, is that a Seagate Wreckage?" Right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, is that you have an Arch? Oh,
you have. Why are you ascending? You don't have any. Oh, is that an art? Oh, oh no, you got them golden arches.
You got them golden arches. Oh man, we're gonna get sued.
No, in no relation to
different
McDonald's.
arches.
Different arches.
Actual arches.
Please let's do us.
I love Arch of Araska.
Yeah, I think this card is good. It kind of just sits there and like doesn't do anything until it's completely relevant. So, and there's a lot of decks that are going to be 2 color that you're like, I can throw one of these in and it won't hurt too much.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of options right now for like
Colorless
random
lands.
colorless
They
land
add
that you could
value.
play.
I agree.
Yeah. So I mean, this is just kind of throw this one on the pile. It's another option that you could play, and you don't even necessarily need to be a token deck or anything like that for
Right.
this to be good.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you're probably going to want to be a deck that plans on going along.
Yes.
You know, if you want to play this, but yeah,
After that,
we have the cycle of enemy tap lands. Is that what we're talking about?
yeah, I think I just generically called them Shadow Duels because they were from the Shadows block.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
these are the enters the battlefield tapped, and then they add. We have the black-white one, black-green,
Forsaken
blue-red.
Century, Foul Orchard, Highland Lake, Woodland Stream, or Stone Quarry and Woodland Stream.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought didn't we have like Woodland Stream already?
Some
Wasn't it
of
in one of
these
the decks?
are legal because of the Planeswalker decks.
Yeah, some of these are already legal, and even some of the ally ones are actually already legal as well. Like Cinder Barons is one that was in, I think it's in the Ungrath Planeswalker deck, so it's technically legal and standard.
That's awkward.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep.
I mean, I guess like these aren't exciting. Nobody's
Nope.
going to be excited about these.
Nope.
However, I think Morgan, like you were talking about last week, like the mana bases can be difficult.
So here's the thing that I hate about these lands that they did. All of the enemy color pairs are aggressive. And you now have really bad duels for your aggressive decks that enter the battlefield tapped, and that does not help with those mana bases. So all the aggressive decks, the Vampires decks and the Merfolk deck, are hurt by these lands existing. Now you could say those are Tribals decks and they have unclaimed territory, which is true. But I mean,
How you cast your spells though?
yeah,
Like,
exactly. So I'm disappointed to see these lands, and like I know, I think Mario had an answer that like they didn't want to make mana too good, pretty much, because they were afraid that everything would be homogenized if you have too good mana.
But why?
I don't understand that stance. Like I
decks
think
are so much better when the mana.
I think good mana leads to good deck building and interesting standard formats. Like hurting mana for all decks like is damaging, and like you do have the cases where like mana is too good for a specific deck, like we had with Teamer Energy. But if you even the playing field by actually having good lands, then I think that makes for a more dynamic standard. I'm just hurt that the Buddy lands would have fit so well into the set. Like they mentioned harbors, and they got isolated chapels, and like they could have really had some cool artwork paired with the lands, and they took a cop out. I don't like that. I'm disappointed. But if you're playing a slower deck and need some lands, maybe these will fit the bill. But I don't think anyone that was hoping for the Buddy lands, the enemy Buddy lands, are really disappointed. And like they'll have to reprint those eventually. I mean, they might actually get expensive. They have only showed up once, so
I mean, they're already a couple of them already are expensive.
yeah.
Sulfur Falls is close to 10.
Yeah, I imagine.
I know that like the isolated chapel's worth nothing because it got reprinted a million times in that dual deck.
Yes,
Um,
that is true.
But yeah, no, I agree with you on that. It's more than frustrating. I don't think these are playable most of the time.
No.
So and if they are, it's ones. It's like a one or two of.
It's good for limited though. I think that having like more access to fixing it could potentially be good, and that's where you would see that. Like you will see these in limited Merfolk decks, limited Vampire decks, and stuff like that. So, but overall, meh. But that's what we'll stop today for our set review. We will catch back up next week and finish everything out. Before we jump into the end of the show, do you want to give a shout out, of course, to BCW Supplies for being a lovely sponsor of the show. I know that we have recently had some winners of some awesome swag, and I'll be shipping that out here soon. It's been a bit of a long weekend, so we haven't had a chance to really get things in the mail yet, but I will be getting that out to you here shortly. But yeah, check out bcwsupplies.com or check them out on Facebook to see some of the awesome new stuff they have brewing, and keep up on all of their new products and such. So, of course, if you are listening to us via iTunes, do feel free to leave us a review. We do appreciate it, or a rating. It helps us get more visibility. It gets more listeners to the show, so we can keep on keeping on. If you're listening to us via MTGcast, feel free to listen to any of the other awesome Magic content that exists on that website. It's an awesome repository for all of your Magic podcasting wants and needs. If you want to reach out to us, you can via multiple different avenues. We do have a Twitter account. It's Your End Step when you search for us. And then when you add us, it's at Your End Step. We, of course, have an email address at YourEndStep@gmail.com and a website, which is at yourendstep.com. We have a Patreon as well, so if you do want to contribute to the show, you most certainly can. It's just patreon.com/@yourendstep, and we appreciate all of our patrons that help make the show possible week in and week out. Couldn't really do this without your support, in all honesty. So that's going to be everything for this show. We'll catch you guys next week with the rest of the set review, and then we'll talk a little bit about Dallas, since that's the first time we get to see some Rivals cards. So definitely be sure to tune in and check that out next week. But until then, you have a great one. Bye.